The hill went quiet. The wind stopped. The grass lay still across the slope, and every bird that had been calling on the high ground fell silent at once. Not the ordinary quiet that settles over the moor as daylight fades. And that was when the farmer saw the light. Another lantern, moving slowly across the slope above him. But no figure walked beside it. The farmer noticed immediately. You know what silence should sound like. This was not it. He stepped out with a lantern to check the sheep. A small routine at the end of a long day on the hill. A look at the wall, a count of the flock, and a glance at the sky to judge the weather for the morning. It was nothing unusual. Until the quiet came. The sheep had lifted their heads first, not running, not alarmed. They were just standing and looking towards the higher ground. At first, he assumed it was another farmer. That happened often on the hills around Calderdale. Lanterns moving in the dusk from wall to wall, men finishing the day's work. But still, no figure walked beside it. And the distance never changed. He started up the slope towards it, his lantern raised, boots steady on the ground that he knew by heart. The light moved ahead, not faster, not slower, just far enough to remain out of reach. Sometimes it slipped behind a stone wall, and then appeared again, further along the ridge. Always walking, always distant. He slowed on the slope. The ground here was familiar. Every wall, every dip in the grass, even the worn sheep path between the stones. Yet that evening, the hill felt different. Not hostile, not threatening, just aware. As though something larger than the farmer and his lantern was quietly present on the slope, watching the small figure making his way through the stillness. After a while, he stopped walking. The light continued along the ridge, then slowly faded into the gathering dark. He stood there a moment longer, listening, waiting, and then the wind returned. Grass lifted again across the hill, and a bird called somewhere out on the moor. The sheep shifted and began grazing again, and the ordinary sounds of the hillside flowed back into the evening, as though nothing unusual had happened at all. But the farmer did speak about it. Not often, and never dramatically. If anyone asked, he simply said that the hill had gone quiet, and that he'd seen a lantern walking up the slope. A lantern that never came closer, no matter how far he walked towards it. He never claimed to know what it was. Only that the light was not lost. It was just unreachable. And those that knew him noticed something else. Before that evening, his world had been simple. Farm, hill, flock. The same fields that his family had worked for years. But afterwards, he began speaking about places beyond the valley. Distant farms, roads that were running over the Pennines, hills that he'd never seen. Within a few years, the tenancy passed to another farmer. The old walls remained, the flock changed hands, and he was gone. Seen now and again in other counties, helping with flocks that weren't his own. A hill farmer, no longer tied to one place. Years later, people still spoke about the night that he changed. Some said the hill had unsettled him. Others said it frightened him. But one neighbour remembered something else. That before that evening his world had ended at the ridge. Afterwards, he started talking about the roads beyond it. And up in Calderdale, the hills carry more than weather. They carry memory. And sometimes, when the wind drops and the land grows still in a way that it shouldn't, it's worth remembering that someone once followed a lantern across a silent hill, and they came back seeing the world a little differently. That's Giles Narrates.